What's up, guys? Let's take a look at another CodeWars exercise. This one's called Crazed templating. We get a list of words, and they don't do it this way, but I imagine stacking them vertically where you could see the sort of columns, like the first letter of each, the second letter of each, and so on, because our result is a single string with the letter from each column if it was the same all the way through. So war, rad, and dad, they all have that A in the middle. And so our result has an A in the middle. But if it's inconsistent, like WRD in the first slot, well, that's an asterisk, that's a star, that's a wildcard. Even if it's most of the time, like ending with D 2 out of 3, it's not enough. It has to be 100%, so we end with a star as well. They're always the same length as each other, but we don't know what that length is, and we don't know how long the list is. I think it's never 0. This one, they're all different, so there's completely stars all the way through, even though you might say like ended with L, ended with L. Okay, never mind, the next one ruins it with an S in that slot. And then if there's only one, well, of course, there's nothing to ruin it. They survive. Now, I saw this, I thought of one way to do it, and I thought that was going to be the most common way, but the reason why I like this problem is because when I saw the solutions, hardly anybody did it the way I did, and they had a few other interesting approaches. So what I thought was, hey, we're going from a list of something to one of something. That's a reduce, okay? From functools import reduce. This is a function that gets used a lot in some languages, and it's in Python. They used to have it requiring no import, but now they moved it into the functools. But basically, reduce is like going from a list of numbers to one number, or a list of words to one word, and you have some process you apply every time with 2, and then the next 2, and then the next 2, all the way until it's narrowed down. So we could approach this in like reducing each column and then joining those, or we could approach this as like reducing 2 words and sort of smashing them into each other until we hit nothing. So let's try both of those just for fun, and don't worry, it's not going to be very long. So I could say like, okay, they already had quotes, but I like the double quotes. You could say reduce, what if we were just doing like one character at a time? So I'm taking like a column of like W, R, and D and reducing that to 1. Well, I could say A, B, well, you're going to go A if A equals B, or B because they're both the same, else star. Okay, and then you apply that to, I'll say call, because I'm calling these columns, even though they don't line it up that way. I think it looks nice that way. For call in, and then we have to do the thing where you like rotate a list. So the way to do that is zip star. Okay, that looks a little weird, but I think it's going to do the job. Yeah, so that's like, what if you reduced each column and then you join them all up? But what if we want to reduce the whole word? What if we want to say like, hey, just take these 2 words, figure out which letters survive, and then take the next 2 and figure out which letters, or really the result of that one plus the next one. So imagine I want to write something nicer. What if I just get rid of that and I say reduce, and then we make a name. What if we call it asterisk words? Okay, then we have to make the asterisk, and this will be like 2 words, word and other, and then it will be something like that. But I really love this idea of like, hey, reduce these 2 things, or reduce these however many things based on a certain process. What's the process? Well, it's right here. What do we got? We take this thing, and now we don't have to think about columns really. We're thinking about just letters. So maybe we don't even need the lambda. Maybe you just say like for A, B, and zip word other. And this is like a normal zip. It's not the zip star rotate weirdness, it's just a normal zip. What do we do here? Do we do a join again? I don't really like that. I think it'd be cool to just join once, but let's see how this goes. Hey, look at that, it also works. Now, of course, you might say this is longer. You made 2 lines instead of 1. But it's an interesting idea, and especially I like expressing this all with one thing. What if I don't really like the idea of joining twice? What if I want to feel like doing a map instead of a zip or something? Let me try something. Map. Okay. We're going to need something slightly different. What if we do that? Yeah, they're going to say, hey, the map is one thing, but it's 2, so we need a thing called star map to crack it open. When you get the zip, you get 2 things. Okay, now it's not worth it anymore. I don't feel like this is cute enough to be worth an import. But let's take a look at the solutions from other people, because they're not this. They're not even close to this. They had a different way of, they're still doing a reduce in theory, which is like you're going from 3 dimensions to 2, or 2 to 1, or 1 to 0. And that idea could be a bunch of for loops, or it could be using things to squish a dimension into 1 or stretch a process across a dimension. So let's see how we do that. Okay, so the first one, it says zip star, which is sort of rotating, and they're looking at columns. They're looking at like the first letter of each, the second letter of each, and they do a set. So a set is a type in Python that says you got everything is in there or not, but it's only once. So it's like if you have 100 A's, well, there's just a single A in the set. So if you say the len of set is 1, well, that must mean there was only one kind of thing, or in this case, one kind of letter the whole way through. Otherwise, it's a star. Okay. This person also used a set, but they turned them into sets before this instead of at the other end of it. Same idea. This is nice. I don't think I ever knew if you could do pop on a set like you can do pop on a list. However, that's dangerous because pop on a set is unpredictable. They're not in order, so you're not going to get the same one every time. Unless it's just 1, in which case, of course, you will. Same thing. A little bit uglier. Here's one that has a for loop, and you just say, hey, what if I check every word, and then inside every word I check every letter, and then if it's different, then we change this list that we've been modifying all the way through. This one uses all, which is great. It's another way to reduce those dimensions to say, hey, what if we stretch across this idea of, well, the I is like a column in this case. And what if they're all the same? Well, then, okay, we get it. Otherwise, it's an asterisk. This person used a lambda, not the way I did to like plug into a reduce, but just to be cute and make their whole thing one line. Okay, here's somebody who did the reduce not for one column at a time, but like for words at a time, and I gave them a little upvote because I thought it was nice, where what if we had 2 words? Well, you do this thing, which is exactly the same thing as we were talking about over here, right? And then you apply that to the whole thing. This is when you just have to hold multiple steps in your head, right? Because I'm going through the words, but the way I go through the words is to go through the letters, and so it's instantly deeper. And if you want to write indenting for if, that works. If you want to write a higher order function that takes and implies, that works. If you want to use a data type like a set to squish it down, that works. But there has to be something to go one level deep. and then another, and then occasionally another, although at least we don't have 4, 4, 4 in this one. And so if you scroll down, you'll see hardly any of them do the thing you see on CodeWars where it's like 20 different names with the same solution, because they're all slightly just different enough to make it unique. Here's one that's doing a slightly different thing. They're using zip and they're appending, and then they have to change it the last second to join and all of that stuff. But that's what we saw with one of them earlier as well. So they also called it rows and columns, even though the approach is not really the same. At least somebody out there is calling it rows and columns, which I did, even though that's not what they show us, right? Like, that's not visually part of the story or anything, but in my mind, this reminds me of other programs that have rows and columns. So, as I've always said, the best part of CodeWars is looking at the stuff from other people, and that's where you learn. Even if you don't like what they're doing, you go, oh, that's weird, I don't like that, it's too much indenting, or it's a really long line that I don't like. You at least see what's out there, and maybe sometime I'll be going through a problem where I just need to turn something into a set, and I'll remember, like, oh, remember when those guys turned it into a set? And that'll be the perfect. Ooh, what's going on to this one? They use reduce. That's nice. So check it out. I love it.